History was made at the 2025 World Gymnastics Championships, where Hashimoto Daiki became only the second man to win 3 all-around titles in a row. Zhang Boheng continued his streak of never finishing lower than second in a major all-around competition, and Noe Seifert won an all-around medal for Switzerland for the first time since 1950. For those new here, I'm Kensley, the host of Neutral Deductions, a podcast all about men's gymnastics. This is episode 85, where I'll be recapping the 2025 World Gymnastics Championships men's all-around final. So coming into this final, Hashimoto had about a half-point lead over Noe Seifert of Switzerland, who only had about a tenth of a lead over Zhang Boheng. So it was very, very close at the top going into the finals. Now, of course, reigning Olympic champ Oka Shinosuke had a really terrible day in qualifying, but he couldn't be counted out of vying for that top spot, because if he did what he was capable of, he was certainly going to be in the running for that gold. Remember, only he and Hashimoto were the only two gymnasts who had actually broken that 85 mark anywhere in that year. Of note, there was a new competition format, and this competition format was changed to sort of make the competition run more smoothly. So instead of having 6 athletes over 4 apparatuses, they had 4 athletes over all 6. And there was some concern going in about how is the pacing going to be? Is this going to affect the stamina of the athletes? Is this going to be good for TV? Are we going to actually miss out on more routines? And I have to say, overall, I actually liked it from a viewer perspective. I'll be interested to hear from the athletes and the coaches themselves if they felt like it was a good change, because I think that their view is more important than what the spectator view necessarily is, because we obviously want to have healthy conditions for the athletes themselves. But when I was going back and doing some research on this, I was looking at the 2023 broadcast, and that broadcast from start to finish was just about 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's not including the medal ceremony. Today's competition was under 2 hours, so that shaves a huge amount of time off. And so again, from a viewer perspective, it is kind of nice to have it flow a little bit better. I didn't notice as much downtime, people waiting around. And so that's something that we're going to be keeping an eye on. Again, I'm really looking forward to hearing from the athletes and the coaches on how they felt like it was for their health and from their perspective.
Neutral Deductions is your exclusive gymnastics news platform focused entirely on men's gymnastics. To show your support, please subscribe to Neutral Deductions' YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram.
Hashimoto ended up starting the competition on floor exercise, and he was a little bit hoppy, to be completely honest. Normally I would say maybe that's not a good start to the competition. It looks like he's trying to be a little bit too perfect, but honestly, it was so much better than qualifications. He ended up upping his score by 1.5 points alone on that event. So I thought it was probably going to be indicative of him having a very, very good day. What I liked about sort of the broadcast and the world feed that was happening is we didn't just stay with the top group. We mainly bounced from the top group to the second group. And then, of course, because Oka Shinosuke was in the third group, we did see a little bit more of them as well. So then we ended up seeing Shisong on pommel horse. And there were some really nice moments of his routine, but there were also moments where he was brushing the apparatus and maybe was a little low in his clearance over the pommels. And so it was a little bit unclear how he was going to place, and probably not stay in that top 6 at that point. And then the camera moves over to Oka Shinosuke, who is on still rings. And the thing coming into this competition is Oka said over and over again, I really don't want to be a one-hit wonder. And that must bring so much pressure, especially when you're competing. Your teammate is your biggest competition and someone who's the 2-time reigning champion. And he also got this kind of hard draw where he's starting on still rings, ending on pommel horse. A lot of guys don't like that. They don't want to save pommel horse for the end. But he ends up starting on rings. The routine is good, I would say, with the exception of maybe the inverted cross. The inverted cross was too high. And at this point, I was a little bit frustrated with some of the commentary. So I actually had both streams running. And one of the commentary groups, they said, like, oh, this is good. This inverted cross is good. And his shoulders were like above the top part of the rings. And I think for me, as I'm viewing, as I'm spectating the sport, and as I know that other people are wanting to learn the sport, I think it's really, really important that those who are commentating are sharing accurate information about what is happening on the screen above them. That inverted cross was not good. And I just want to clear that up. So if you're wanting to learn, that is not the position that you do want to be in. But overall, again, Shinosuke did have a good routine. He stuck his dismount and he gained 5/10 from qualifying. Ultimately, that routine would actually have him leading the first subdivision. One or two other routines I want to point out from the start of this competition. On one of the broadcasts, Tim Daggett said, there's been no falls yet right before Zhang Boheng was about to go on floor. And I just grabbed my head. I was like, no, Tim, don't jinx him. Because if you remember at the Olympics, like Zhang really struggled on floor. And there are so many times where John or Tim or some other commentator will say like, oh, like this has never happened before, or like you should sit back and watch this, and like the complete opposite happened. So I was really afraid for Zhang Boheng's floor routine, but it actually ended up going decently well. One of the things that was interesting to me about his routine is he ended up doing the stag full leap, and I didn't quite think it was going to get credit. It did get credit. So this is one of the things that the men's technical committee is still in the process of clarifying. They added in all of these elements that the men could replace the scale with, the stag 1-1 being part of that. And at first when they announced it, the description that they gave and some of the videos that they gave didn't quite match. So I kind of wonder if they're still giving some leniency in this area. My guess is that post this championships, especially because athletes had so little time to incorporate this, I think it was like less than a month or around a month to incorporate these skills, that maybe they're being a little bit more lenient and they will sort of re-clarify expectations after this World Championships. But that was something that I was looking for. Again, he ended up getting credit and doing quite fine. Noe Seifert, again, part of that top group, qualifying in the top two. Noe did really, really well at European Championships until he got to high bar, and he really just struggled there. And I wondered if the pressure was going to get to him at this competition. And so I sort of waited till floor. And the thing that stood out to me the most about Noe was he just looked so calm and collected. And I just sort of wondered, okay, at this point, is this how he's going to be the rest of the time? Is the stamina going to like catch up with him? Is he going to remember what happened at Euros and struggle through high bar? And so this is going to be kind of like a storyline that we watch throughout this recap. So following the first rotation, Oka Shinosuke is in first place with a 14.066. Anthony Mansard, who had done very well, he started with a 14.0, followed by Daiki Hashimoto with also 14.0, Timo Ader of Germany with a 13.9, Noe Seifert of Switzerland with a 13.866, and Joel Plata of Spain with a 13.8. So again, not a lot of the names that you would expect in this top group, but again, some of these are people who were vaulting. Vaulting is typically a higher scoring apparatus, and things sort of change throughout the competition until people get to vault. So in rotation 2, this is sort of where we start to see a slight change in the order and in the reins. So the top group is going to pommel horse. Shinosuke is going to vault. Shinosuke, again, I had just said, oh, most people need to go to vault and they get a really big score, and then you typically see things move up the ranks for them. This is not the case for Shinosuke. This is where he actually lacks quite a bit of difficulty to his competitors. He only does a cause 1.5, which is quite a downgrade compared to some of his other competitors. Similar with Noe Seifert, Noe has a lot less difficulty on vault as an apparatus. But anywho, Hashimoto, Noe, Daniel Marinov, and Zhang Boheng are going to pommel horse. Interestingly, Noe is the only one of this top group who actually scores a 14 on pommel horse, which was surprising to me. If you had asked me going in, he is not the gymnast I would have chosen that would have broken that 14 mark. But coming out of rotation 2, Hashimoto is in the lead, and this is sort of what we see throughout. Oka's leading, then Hashimoto's leading, then Oka's leading again, and you sort of think like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be Oka's redemption story. So again, after rotation 3, he goes to parallel bars. It's a great routine. Oka's in the lead, followed by Zhang Boheng and Hashimoto Daiki, and you think, okay, this is what the podium's gonna be. What is the order gonna be? And then we get all the way down to rotation 5. And this is where things start to fall apart. So Oka Shinosuke was going to floor exercise. And remember, he had a lot of struggles here in qualifications. He did not complete his full floor routine. So he opened okay, but then he went for a back 2.5 to front lay, and his punch was just totally off. And he ended up, instead of going for a layout, he ended up tucking pretty badly, and we were honestly unsure if his feet touched first or if his bottom touched first, if he was going to completely lose an element group. He ultimately, I think if I counted correctly, only ended up doing 3 passes. It was a pretty disastrous floor routine, to be completely honest. It was just very evident that this floor, he has not quite figured out this floor. And I don't know at this point if it was a stamina issue. I don't know if it's just him and the Taishan like just don't get along and he can't figure it out. But this is really what unraveled his bid for being on the all-around podium. The other thing that ended up happening that was quite weird here was Zhang Boheng ended up struggling through parallel bars. He didn't actually end up getting his full difficulty here. He was down by a couple of tenths, and so this is kind of where he ended up at a disadvantage to Hashimoto. So heading into the final rotation, you had Hashimoto Daiki with a 70.431, Zhang Boheng of China with a 70.033, Shi Song of China with a 69.231, Noe Seifert with a 68.731, Angel Barajas in 5th with a 68.632, Daniel Marinov of Russia with a 68.533. He's also part of that neutral athlete group. Then Oka Shinosuke with a 68.464, and Caio Sousa of Brazil with a 68.16 floor. So basically, going into this final competition, it was pretty heavily understood that if Daiki hit his routine, he was probably going to be the one who was going to win. He had a little bit more difficulty expected on high bar, and again, he's just typically a little bit crisper than Zhang. Zhang is also excellent on high bar, but I would have said, yes, if I'm placing a bet, I'm placing it on Daiki. And so they start this rotation, and Zhang gets up, he does his routine. It's a good routine. It's not necessarily going to be a huge score for Hashimoto to have to beat. It's a 14.3. We've seen Hashimoto get a lot closer to that 15 range this year. So again, it's looking really good for Daiki. So things are starting to shift to, okay, probably if Daiki hits, he's going to win. So who is this going to get this bronze spot? Oka's definitely out of the competition at this point. It looks like it's probably going to come down to Noe Seifert and Shi Song. Well, Noe's going to high bar. Remember what I said? Noe did not have a great competition at the European Championships when he was in the running for that all-around medal there. Shi is not really known for being a great consistent floor worker. And so what's going to happen? So Noe gets up, goes on high bar. He hits his routine, like looks calm as an absolute cucumber, 5'7" with a 14.1 total score. His all-around total comes up in 82.831. Now, Shi could absolutely have touched this, but he went onto floor, multiple passes were lacking control on the landing, and basically he gave away this competition, this bronze medal, with his execution scores, because Noe does not have the most difficulty by a long shot, but he just consistently showed up and hit the routines that was needed. So at this point, Zhang's in second, Zhang's in first, Noe's in second, and we're waiting on Daiki to go. So Daiki goes up, he does not do all of his connections, and so I'm thinking, Okay, he's downgrading his routine, but then he does the Lucan, which is a skill that he's fallen on a couple times this year, although typically he's fallen on it in combination, and he's taken out the combination. He's doing the Lucan just by itself. He hits this routine, nails the dismount, and all of a sudden it becomes very clear, okay, he's probably going to win. Now, his score took forever to come up on the screen. I didn't think anything really needed to be reviewed that long. Like maybe his talk full was sort of questionable, but it honestly felt more like they were holding his score for dramatic purposes. But anyway, the score comes up. He wins. He looks relieved. He has won his third in a row. He, again, as I mentioned at the very top of the show, he is now the second man only behind Kohei Uchimura to win that many all-around titles in a row. It's masterful for him. Zhang Boheng, of course, does not look the most happy. Typically we've seen them kind of maybe go back and forth of who performs better in which competition. And now Daiki's kind of pulling ahead, and they're very similar ages, and he's kind of saying like, hey, I think, I have the better record here. And then you have Noe Seifert, who has won the first medal for Switzerland in 75 years. And I don't think anything could have taken the smile off of his face. I mean, you've just never seen someone so happy. So as we sort of wrap up this all-around podcast, and again, I'm trying to keep these short so that everyone can listen every day and keep up with what's happening in the competition. So in qualifications, Daiki had a 33 difficulty. He had a 32.9 here in finals. So he changed some things around. He upgraded his floor, downgraded his high bar. Zhang had a 32.3 in qualifications and a 32.5 in finals. So he upgraded his pommel horse and he upgraded his high bar, but he didn't get his full difficulty on parallel bars. Noe did the exact same routines that he had planned in both, a 30.6. So coming in, he's about 2.5 points down from Daiki in sheer difficulty. Now, had Oka not fallen and lost so much difficulty on floor, he easily would have had the bronze medal. And so that's of course a shame for him. Like you do want everyone to come out and do their best. So that's something that we're going to be looking forward to in the future, seeing how he sort of rebounds and comes back. Because I don't know if you remember, but after the Olympic Games, when Hashimoto did not do well in the all-around, he was very sad and said, I think I might take some time off. I'm not sure when I'm going to come back to gymnastics. And it seems he actually came back pretty quickly and was able to be very successful. So I think probably for Oka, he's going to be dealing with those same emotions of, do I come back? Do I take some time off? And hopefully he'll be able to come back and show the world what he is capable of. One athlete that I did not mention a lot throughout the preview process or throughout this competition is Daniil Mironov. He is one of the neutral athletes competing for Russia, for lack of a better term. And he's someone I do want you to pay attention to in the next few years. He has some places that he really needs to develop, like his ring strength. I believe he actually counted a back lever as part of his D score. And so he's definitely going to be looking to upgrade there. But this is his first international competition. He's someone who has a very interesting story. He was actually born in Bulgaria and lived there for several years. And then he ended up moving to Russia, and that's where he started gymnastics. And he's very loyal to Russia. And it's my understanding that he's actually been contacted by the Bulgarian Federation and offered to compete, especially while the Russian athletes had been banned. And he has turned them down and feels like he needs to compete for Russia, where he learned gymnastics. So this is, again, the first time we're seeing him on this international stage. And I think as he develops more confidence and as he's able to add more difficulty, I think he's going to be one who's going to be a little bit more competitive in the next few years. A few of the other really interesting and special parts about this competition were that several records were broken here. And thank you so much to Lauren at thegymter.net for providing these statistics. So Noe Seifert is the highest finisher for Swiss men's gymnastics since 1950, 75 years. That is a huge accomplishment for him and the Swiss program. For Angel Barajas of Colombia, he had the highest finish of any Colombian athlete, breaking Josimar Calvo's 10th place record from 2014, and Angel Barajas did finish in 6th. Omar Mohammed of Egypt broke his own record. He had previously qualified in 25th, and now he placed 23rd, so congratulations to him. Australia's Jessie Moore, who we previewed as someone who could be one of the surprise athletes for the medal stand, he broke Joshua Jeffrey's 12th place finish from 2006, and he finished at 11th, making him the highest finisher in an all-around at a World Championships for an Australian athlete. Sebastian Spanevik of Norway finished in 18th and broke Sofus Hegemus' record in the all-around at 19th in 2022. And then Dagur Kari Olsum is the first Icelandic gymnast to be in a final. And I think those are the really special moments where you remember it's so much more about just who finishes on the podium. Having these moments where, especially having Iceland's first gymnast in this all-around final, these are the moments where it inspires a country to say, I saw him do that, so now I believe I can do that. And typically we see it have a huge effect on the gymnastics developing in those countries. And I think it's really important to have that representation, and so people have someone to look up to and feel like that they can accomplish the same thing as well. Looking ahead, we have one more podcast this week. Following the first day of event finals, Sam Oldham and I are going to be podcasting about floor, pommel horse, and still rings event finals, and I'll try and get that up pretty quickly on Friday so that you can take a listen to that. And then following Saturday's event finals, I'll probably be recording that on Monday, so that will be the podcast for you to listen to next week. We thank you so much to everyone who has been watching this and subscribing on YouTube. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe. We are so close to getting to 2,000 followers, which would be a huge milestone for us. Like, we're a small podcast focused on men's gymnastics. And genuinely, if you're not subscribed, please just hit that button. It really does help us out. If you would like, you can also leave us a review on Apple Podcast. That helps us out. We have 79 5-star reviews right now. So if you want to be the 80th 5-star review, that would be very helpful again. If you have any questions, comments, or insider tips, you can email us at neutraldeductions@gmail.com. That's all for now. We'll see you Friday after the first day of event finals.